So I'll call to order the meeting of the Airport Commission at 4:05 p.m. The first item is the acknowledgement of remote commissioners. So commissioners who are currently attending remotely, could you please acknowledge yourselves?
Chip Mason.
Thank you, Chip.
Jeff Schulman.
Thank you, Jeff. We'll see you shortly. Item 2 is the agenda. Do we hear a motion to approve the contents of the agenda?
Move.
That is moved by Connor. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Greg. Any discussion on the agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We have an agenda. We move on to item 3, which is public forum.
That's me again.
It's you again. Welcome.
My name is Jeff Mickelson, NICHELSON. I'm a current resident of South Burlington. I've lived in Burlington, consider it a fun community. I've lived in the rest of the state. We only got the one airport. I work here at the airport for American Airlines, fully owned subsidiary of Piedmont. I'm a member of the Communications Workers of America. Those inform my station, but I don't speak for anybody other than or only for myself. So y'all know why I'm here. We are leading the way to a brighter, greener future here at Burlington Airport. Amazing things have been done toward that end, but we're doing that without thinking of the big blue cloud of car exhaust that's out front. Our only landside transportation plan is that everybody somehow get an individual car and drive the 2-ton vehicle right up to the door of the airport. Anything else is just randomly happen to happen, and we're just accepting it. But as they told me in the pandemic, we're an essential part of our nation's critical transportation infrastructure. So when you get to this end of the infrastructure, there needs to be a way to connect to the rest of the infrastructure. Y'all have heard me say this before. I have a 3-part plan. The third part is a comprehensive landside transportation plan that can take care of this, other than building your own exit to the interstate so more cars can get up to the door of the airport. In the middle, pick up some low hanging fruit because there's some people around here that might put an airport stop on things that they're already doing. And first of all is our bus, the number 11 bus, which a number of your employees here take to get to work, but also a lot of customers. And when I fly places, I check public transportation first. This is just a way you connect to the rest of the city. The number 11 bus is barely adequate at best because of the hours that it runs and the hours that we work and the hours that airplanes land. And even that is scheduled. The last schedule they announced was that it would be canceled as of June. There would be no more bus until it gets that. They have pulled that plan down now. It was a projected plan. I think they were hoping to get some more money from the feds, which you know that's not happening from the legislature. It's not a great year for that. But they pulled it out. They haven't said just yet that they're canceling the bus in June as according to the original plan. There's a public hearing on this bus and on this whole plan next week at the South Burlington City Hall and online also next week. But I had hoped that at this point you guys had a place at the table already, because usually by the time you get to public hearings, you guys know the plan's kind of in place. And so if you guys haven't been a part of that, I just encourage you to do so. In the meantime, I'm going to do all I can to at least save the number 11 bus. Don't give up the only thing you've got as we work toward doing something more comprehensive. And I thank you very much. And I hope I can hear back or maybe see something in an agenda or an announcement or something that you guys are working on a landside transportation plan. I'd be so pleased. In the meantime, they already cut that bus, so I can't take that bus home in the evening on the weekends. And we're going into summertime when we have more later evening flights. So add one more car to your parking problems because it's mine. And I don't think I'm alone. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you. Is there anyone online?
No one else online.
Go ahead, Chip.
Can I just make a technological comment? The screen doesn't focus on the speaker, either for town meeting TV or, I mean, I could hear him, but I don't know how to fix that going forward, but we might want to be able to see the speaker when someone's presenting.
Oh, he was standing over against the wall, so you wouldn't be able to see him with this camera. So he'd have to come like and stand where Nick is to do public or over here.
We'll
tap his head.
I'm like, I thought I would
Yeah.
you're not seeing that. So just for town meeting purposes and other, we can hear him, but you couldn't.
I don't think that
Yeah, it's an AI machine, so it picks up the voice and the camera will
I don't
automatically
know.
change unless it doesn't see
I
movement
guess
or
not.
doesn't understand where it's
Even
coming
like
from,
this.
so it probably was focused on Tim or us or somebody else.
Yeah, what did
We'll
you,
double check.
what did you see when the speaker was speaking?
You
Anything?
you could see him in the background a little bit, but it kept moving from him to seeing you, Nick.
Oh, he's out of focus because he's too far away.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a rotating panoply of people that are showing up.
Yeah, good. Thank you for pointing that out, so, because, yeah, we wouldn't have seen that, yeah.
All right, thank you, Chip. So that concludes public forum. We move on to item 4, which is the consent agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the contents of the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
That is moved by Greg. Is there a second? Second by Connor. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We have approved the consent agenda. We move on to item 5, action items. Our first action item is item 5.1. I'd be willing to entertain a motion to recommend that the Board of Finance and City Council approve a contract with Pike Industries for taxiway C and G rehabilitation, as well as the execution of a related FAA grant, both as outlined in our agenda packet. Do I hear a motion to that effect? So moved. That is moved by Connor. Is there a second? That's a second by Robin. And discussion on this?
Yeah, I'll start then. This is a pretty routine, I guess you could say, routine being over many years, but programmed capital improvement for the airport, and this is going to be our taxiway Charlie. It is gonna kind of cross into the Gulf intersection as well. I could point out the map if you'd like as well, but essentially this is in front of Heritage Aviation and the FedEx parking positions. This will continue our normal asphalt replacement plan with the Federal Aviation Administration. So this particular item is to request 2 things. One, to accept the grant, and the second one is to sign a contract with Pike Industries, which is the lowest responsible bidder.
Will C be closed?
For portions of this, yes, the project won't start until next year.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
And we're just getting approved.
You got it.
Mike hasn't won a bid on the airfield for a while, so it's good to have him back.
Yeah, it's nice to see Larry's got a good point. It's nice to see the competition for the bids.
So where do we start? Here?
Yeah, it'd be all of Charlie.
All of Charlie.
Yeah, all the way to the,
This is called
yeah,
Charlie.
we did to about right here, to 500 feet, let's call it up to off the runway 1, and then we're good to go.
And
So
golf will
then
go
they're
south.
only half hour, it's gonna be this way and across.
Yeah,
This
this
is
is
the grant. 'Cause it's
correct,
closed.
it's gonna be one way or the other during the construction.
And Rodney, you can see the portion of golf that's older at the intersection, yeah, for that too.
FedEx can get out here without running anybody over.
We have a very logical and designed engineering and phasing plan to make sure that all very.
We only 757 on the airport.
Go ahead, Greg.
Nick, just a question about the funding. Just one word I'm just sort of curious about. It says the funding is anticipated from the FAA. Just sort of wondering, we know that FAA has a lot going on right now. Is there any chance that some of that funding might be cut because of everything they're dealing with?
No, great question, because we do not have a grant yet. And right now, we're not even gonna be signing a contract until we have the paperwork in place, specifically with Pike. Of course, we have to spend the preliminary funds to design the work and get the phasing plans, et cetera, all up to speed. These are entitlement funds, so these are appropriated and methodically calculated costs and revenue that would come to us based on our passenger numbers. So there is zero risk at this point in time, zero risk that these are going to be changed, because these are entitled to the airport through a very large FAA authorization bill that's been passed.
And there's one really good thing about this, this is significantly less than we had estimated in under our entitlement, so we'll be able to take that portion of entitlement we're not using this year and push it into next year to do other projects.
Yeah, that is great. So,
And one other follow-up on the funding. It talks about the normal 15% contingency and such, and I know I was reading in the minutes, which were really well organized, Jesse. I don't know if you were doing that, but
Yeah.
really well organized, so thank you for that. And happened to note that in Larry's report that some of the contracts were quite a bit lower than anticipated. I think it was for the windows, and it even mentioned with the windows, the Buy America, so it wouldn't be impacted by sort of tariffs and things like that, which was great to hear. And I'm just wondering, with these projects, since there is a lot of sort of materials that may come from Canada, I'm guessing, is
Are you
it?
still talking about, actually, Charlie?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, all by America,
that's
all
all
federal.
by America, but all of this is pavement, it's all local.
Okay.
Yeah, it's bituminous pavement, except for the cement that not the cement, but bituminous that comes in. All the aggregate and everything else is local.
So it shouldn't be impacted.
This one should not be impacted.
And even if it was, so even if for some reason they needed to buy material and there is a waiver process to buy outside of US products, especially like technical things like HVAC units and things like that. Even if it was increased after we signed the contract, it doesn't change the fact that we have a contract and the FAA will pay for those increases. So the removal of the risk associated with those increases are within the contract.
Good, thank you.
All right, commissioners, any other questions on this topic?
I guess the only other sort of safeguard is we've already set multiple precedent for this type of FAA grant anyway, right?
Yeah, every year.
This is so standard that.
Every year we get about $3.8 million, depending on the calculation for.
And this looks like a 2.7 with a 15% override.
You got it. Now, we always push our boundaries and ask for more.
Heck yeah,
Um,
negotiate high.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, commissioners, anything else on this topic? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries unanimously. We move on to 5.2. I'd be willing to entertain a recommendation that the Board of Finance and City Council approve the execution of contracts with Strong Tower and JPG for residential sound installation improvements, as well as the execution of a related FAA grant, all as outlined in our agenda packet. Do we hear a motion to that effect? Yes, moved by Connor. Is there a second?
Second.
That's moved by Greg. Nick?
Yeah, start again. So this is a what is now our routine request for noise discretionary funding, a little bit different than the entitlements that were allocated every year. This is a pool of funds from FAA that goes specifically to noise compatibility programs. Of course, we've been doing these for years, decades. And this is another grant and associated contracts that would continue our noise insulation program. This would construct 6 additional houses and then get ready for the next round of houses, both through categorization, which just essentially just means putting like houses together so that we can justify acoustical testing. It'll also add acoustical testing, and it'll start some design work for the next phase of the houses for next year's grant. So again, this is a continuation. Later on, we'll show you a couple of pictures that Larry, Jesse, and I were able to go in the community and tour some houses. But the projects are going really well. Even through the winter last year went really well. This again is just to continue that project. This is a 3-part motion, if you will. This is to accept the grant, same type of grant, except like I said, it's discretionary. It's competitive nationwide, so we need to wait for it. It's to sign a contract with Strong Tower for the associated work, and then Jones Paint Group, which is now set up in a permanent office right next door to us right here, to continue the program outreach and all of the other bullet points that are inside the memo with the additional work.
All right, commissioners, any questions for Nick on this item?
I know it might be a couple of years out, but I'm curious about kind of longer term phases in like this, I'm thinking of Winooski, Ski, but also if there's any Burlington impact for this program. I know that's hard to tell, given the grant program, the phase.
No, we know, yeah, we know exactly where, I don't know exactly where we
So the outreach right now, we're focused on 220 units, and I don't have the exact number, but it's about 120 or 30 of them are in Winooski.
Okay.
That the outreach of the 220, the other is broken up between Burlington and South Burlington of that 220.
And it's how do I phrase this? It's thoughtful conversations that we have to have with these homeowners, because like Larry said, the outreach is kind of the initial phase. And it takes time, and it takes time to design, and then it takes time to go through the grant process, and so it could be a year and a half before actually physically in their house doing construction. Right now, it's a really great positive feedback on the actual construction itself.
Recording stopped.
But it does take time to get into the house, of course.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Jones Mason person is end up going door to door if they don't get response through mail and other needs.
Well, thank you.
Have we just done homeowners or did Winooski Elementary School or, reach out because clearly they're impacted, right?
I don't
is that
think they are.
Not a thing?
Yeah, schools are definitely eligible. Our very first project was Chamberlain Elementary School. And that was a couple of $1 million where we put in a positive ventilation system and HVAC essentially in there. There are other educational facilities that would be eligible, and places of worship are also eligible. Most of the units that we're doing right now, because they're closest or higher in the decibel level, are single family residential. But eventually, if you're in the next decibel level, or even the 10th of a decibel level, you would be next, whether you're school, worship, or residential, or multifamily residential as well.
So just to tack on to that, because I just want to make sure we address it for anyone who's listening. So if it's a regular business, right, it's not a nonprofit institution, it's not a resident. Are they eligible for the program as well?
Yeah, commercial, industrial, or regular businesses would not be eligible for noise insulation. And that folks can find that at btsound.com. And the FAA has a single page chart of everybody that would be eligible within each contour zone as well.
Mirabelle's not so much. Schools, yes.
Right. That's not, yeah. And not every space in those eligible areas are eligible. So like a bathroom in a residential house is not eligible for sound insulation, or a gymnasium in a school is not eligible for sound insulation. It's a very, very specific criteria.
You measure it, right? That's the first thing. Is it somebody contacting you, you would go and measure?
Yeah, we do pre-acoustical testing.
Yeah.
We make sure they're eligible in the first place, because sometimes houses aren't even eligible at all because their interior noise levels already meet the lower
They're in
threshold.
your house or whatever, they're
Yep.
replaced all the windows
Yep.
already.
And if not, then we do the construction, and then afterwards we do a post-acoustical test to verify that the reduction in noise has occurred.
All right. Commissioners, anything else on this item? All right, hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Carries unanimously. Move on to item 5.3. I'd be willing to entertain a motion to recommend that the Board of Finance and City Council endorse the execution of a real estate lease at 25 Customs Drive with Beta Technologies as outlined our agenda packet. Do you hear a motion to that effect? As moved by Connor, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Robin. Discussion, Nick.
Yeah, so we have a commercial location outside of our fence line. This is a non-aeronautical commercial space located at 25 Customs Drive. This is right next to our maintenance shop and behind Heritage Aviation. Aviation. Yep, so right there.
Here. Right?
Yep,
Out
that
here.
way, yep,
This-
exactly.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay.
Yep, and that location was a really amazing long-term tenant called Aviatron. They manufactured parts for aircraft and jet aircraft. They've grown, they've substantially grown, and they have built a new location, I believe in S6, I think it is. So they have grown so big and so successful that after a couple of decades being there, they have moved out. We advertise that location with Donahue and Associates, which is our real estate broker. They have a couple of listings out there for us right now. Both individual office space listings as well as larger commercial spaces like this. It's been advertised for probably 2 to 3 months. And we received a single request or an intent to lease on the property, which was Beta Technologies. Beta's mission recently has been to continue to grow near and around this airport and utilize more space. In fact, they're currently growing around the world right now and over in Europe, flying around their aircraft, which is pretty amazing. It's a little bit of land, but it includes this just over 15,000 square foot industrial building. Needs a little bit of an investment, very little work that we have to do besides some minor utility work. And they're going to be putting in some initial capital into the building to make their business work for it. We don't have to do any of that. This is an initial 5-year term at a small increase to what the old tenant used to pay. Very small, like a couple $1,000 increase. And at a 200,000 annual revenue source for the airport, and it does include a 5-year renewal option. Yeah, we're looking forward to working with Beta to upgrade the building. They want to paint the building and upgrade the building even outside of our initial investment into cleaning it up and start leasing it right away.
Is there any limitations to what activity you can do since it's on the outside of the fence?
Not really. I mean, besides obviously no aircraft or airport access is over on that particular building.
What about batteries?
That would be a building code and
That
a
takes care of stuff.
city and state determination. I believe they are going to be doing battery work in that particular facility. And of course, through the codes and the permits and everything else they need to do. And we have a extensive environmental and liability of what they can do in that lease.
And they get parking at Heritage for that?
There's 26, I think, if I remember, yeah. 26 parking locations that's
That are
directly in front.
designated for the building.
Correct, yeah.
That will be, they were not previously.
I didn't think so, yeah.
But it's about the same. It's about the same. Aviatron had about the same amount of cars, yeah.
And no other access is being requested, like through that gate, so that they will line up with some of their other buildings.
Nope. It's all on the outside of our fence line.
Right, but they couldn't go, there's a fence there for FedEx, right? That's where their trucks come and go from. They wouldn't have access to that gate.
They have access to various airfield gates throughout the airport, yeah, so they would continue to have access.
So they could.
I don't know if that's one of them or not, and
Oh,
yeah.
is Aviatron out?
Aviatron is out. Go ahead, Jim.
Thanks, Tim. So my question for Nick is sort of like, how final is this? Meaning I'm not gonna negotiate, but like as I was quickly trying to scan it because it came late, there's some things that aren't attached. I'm just trying to figure, I'm a little unclear exactly what our role is sometimes. And sorry, so I made a last minute, if we're sort of putting ourselves on the line, like we've reviewed this, we've asked the hard questions, I would typically want to see, there's turnover responsibilities on Exhibit C. Well, there's no Exhibit C. The leased premises are on Schedule A, but there's no Schedule A.
Yeah.
So I'm sort of in this and I'm supportive and it's good, but I'm not sure if by passing this with a current resolution, we're sort of representing to the Board of Finance and council that this is the final lease and we want you to approve it. As opposed to, and I appreciate there's always that subject to city attorney language in there, there may be things that come up. But I'm sort of, I guess my simple question is like, is this the final lease or is there still stuff that's in negotiation right now?
Yeah, everything is negotiated, but the lease itself is not in final form. You can see that we didn't attach the lease to the
Right.
commission package. And similar to contracts and grants and things like that, we wouldn't attach those types of things to civic clerk unless requested. But this is not in a final form. The concept of the lease and the approval or the recommendation of this particular lease moving forward to Board of Finance is what we would be requesting.
Okay. So again, a little bit back to like the sort of, it's unclear to me, like, am I supportive of entering into a lease on the terms and conditions in the memo? Yes. Like, am I recommending that the council approve the lease? That makes me a little more nervous, only in the sense of I don't have the final piece of paper, to be able to say, yes, I've asked, for example, as I quickly scanned it, I'm a little confused about the real estate tax, how the real estate taxes work, but I don't want to waste time at this if we're only providing a general statement of support as opposed to the way this reads, it's sort of tied to square footage, including the lease premises, which doesn't make sense to me, but I don't want to go down that rabbit hole unless there's and waste everyone's time. If we're just supportive of, $2,000 a year seems like it's market. We've engaged, you've engaged a broker, they've beat the bushes. I feel comfortable having done our diligence and pressed you that this is probably the best deal we can get. But to me, that's a different approval than the lease, that I'm looking at, and we're being asked to say, this is the lease. Because if I were on the Board of Finance, I'd be like, well, this is not it's not final yet. It's sort of still in conversation and negotiation.
Yeah, I guess it's more in line. I see what you're saying now. I guess it's more in line with the recommended motions for Board of Finance and City Council, where you're recommending that the mayor execute the lease in a final form. And I get what you're saying. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Could we modify the language? Well, so I was gonna clarify that because we've had, and I know this predates you, but we've had this conversation before. In that we don't always receive all of the documents that ultimately go before Board of Finance and City Council. I think it's a great time, and maybe not at this moment, but to revisit that. And do we want to start getting back into receiving all the contracts?
Well, just to clarify, this lease also is not going to be attached to a Board of Finance or City Council document either. We do publish the lease in a final form, but our city's attorney's office, both with contracts and leases, are not attaching them to these documents. So this isn't a final form of the lease, and can be changed and may be changed even after the approval of the concept of that lease and the concept of the real estate transaction.
So I can only weigh in with my experience, which was, yes, you're right, Nick. There was always that reservation because there may be an issue that arises after approval by Board of Finance or by City Council. But I will say, at least unless this is a change in how the city attorney's office is conducting business, we were asked to approve, the final the document. And that was true, where it was going to either airport or another, my expectation as a counselor was that they had approved, the form, not in concept. So appreciate this may be a conversation between Tim and Ben, or, to understand exactly what role we are being asked to serve here. But that is being asked to approve a non-final form is a change in practice from what we used to do and what I would expect if I were still sitting on the council.
And I will say that there was a time where we did have I can't speak for leases specifically, because my memory's not that sharp. But there was a lot of times where we actually did have attachments and full legal documents and things like that, and that was a change in practice. So since that changed, the way that I've worded these motions are. They all end with as outlined in our agenda packet, meaning that we aren't speaking to anything more than what's in the packet. So we're not. That's all we can speak to. If there's something that's really bad in this lease and we weren't provided it in the packet, we can't speak to it. So I hear what you're saying, Chip, that if we could be recommending something, I guess in theory, that has something that's we consider detrimental in it. But the way the motion is worded, we can't weigh in on something we don't see.
Fair.
If that's helpful.
That is helpful in terms of feeling like I did my job, but I might argue, Tim, that like there is a specialized body of knowledge within the commission, and
Yes.
so
Yes.
I would argue we should be, we bring that specialized knowledge to these very to the specific language. And, I would encourage, we should be tasked with that responsibility, not a generic approval, and let counselors without that knowledge, specialized knowledge, working into the details. That's not relating to this specific motion, but just a general statement.
I appreciate that comment and I agree with that comment. I think that should be like that. I can also do some follow-up on my end too to clarify the situation.
Yes, because we went through this a while back, and like I said, it has transitioned, but I think that's a very good point, Chip. I also think the composition of this body has changed from those days as well, and so maybe it's worth revisiting that. So I will take that up with Ben Travers, and I don't know if you want to talk to anybody, but I'll see what his expectation is of our body in that scenario, and just generally all commissions as a whole. I mean, we're a little bit unique than compared to some other commissions, but I think I appreciate you raising that point, and we'll talk with Ben about that.
Great, thank you. My only other, just a specific comment, Nick, maybe to take back on the real estate taxes. It's how it's drafted is a little confusing to me. That language is typically seen where you have space in a building, for example, where you're doing your sort of pro rata, and it makes sense. Your lease is 1,000 and it's a 10,000 square foot building. You're paying %. I don't know how your tax bill is done, but this sort of says it includes the lease space and the real estate, as compared to the whole airport. So I don't know what that number is, but to me, that sort of seems like, wow, the airport's got a lot of acreage. The lease premise, the value of the lease premises is a lot higher than some of that unoccupied acreage. So for what it's worth, I don't get it. And maybe something you can circle back up with the office to make sure that's accurate.
You hit it on the head. That's exactly how it is. So we have a large parcel tax bill and we have to prorate. What was the word? Prorata? Proration?
Yes.
The particular segment of that tax bill based on a calculation that we do. So in a lot of our leases, that's exactly what we do, as if it's a portion of a building.
Okay.
We do the same thing. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. I have no further comments. Tim, thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Those were good comments. Commissioners, anything else on this item? All right, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Item 5.3 carries. We move on to item 6, which is the construction update from Larry.
Okay, the only thing I really have today is that we're scheduled for next Tuesday night. We heard by the South Burlington DRB for the SRE maintenance building. So that's coming up. Everything else that I reported here is consistent with those items we've already discussed. Who's the other thing? If you have any questions, I'll gladly answer them. I mean, we've been really focused. We've got 3 major projects going on. We have the next project, which Nick likes to report on, we have, the mill and overlay that starts overnight tomorrow night. We'll be going for 100 days starting Sunday night. Along with that, at nighttime, we have a Rester Cable Pit project going on at night, overnight. So we have been focused on, well, safety first, okay? But coordination is huge for dozens of people that are gonna be running around on our airfield. So that's the big things that are one. You have any questions? I'm glad to answer.
Right, commissioners, anything for Larry?
So does this include the runway test that's going on down at the valley right now?
Yeah, well, I don't have it in here, but, right, that is a test for the pavement that we used on the runway, which we took advantage of a really bad area of our pavement that improved at the cost of the project. So that test is going on tomorrow and Thursday. They will mill tomorrow and they will do the inlay the next day and do all the testing to make sure before they get that out there on Sunday night and start milling and paving, that what they're doing for compaction and stuff is meeting those requirements. So is that your question?
How do they assess if it meets the standard from such a small little projection?
They'll do core samples, they can do a lab and test it for compaction at that time, what they need for density and compaction.
We've already done so much part of the runway. I'm just trying to like visualize why they do that every time.
Every time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
This
and
is part of
every
it.
project, you gotta make sure your practices are correct before you get out there and start working. Because you don't want the place to be shut down.
And we try to take advantage of course, these test
Using
strips and using the pavement.
Yeah, there are other places we would have liked to use them, but the areas are a little bit smaller.
Yeah, yeah.
So we'll have a nice area down there, I'll pay for it.
So what's happening right now is down in the valley where the plate school is, they had to run a test for runway surfacing. And so we had a fairly large area of the apron that's just very worn and has cracks and water gets in it and snow and ice and all that. So they sectioned that off and are repaving it for the test, which means we get a free repaved surface and they get to do their testing. And our little airplanes that run across that are never going to, it's not gonna be ever in doubt whether Cessnas can run across this area. So that started yesterday.
It's all for you.
I know, thank you so much. A little more than that.
Great, go ahead.
Oh, God, yes, yeah, no, it's truly significant. And that area has also been, it's kind of wobbly because of ice heave and, Vermont
A
being.
lot of
Vermont.
cracks,
A
a
lot of
lot of
cracks.
sealing. So this will take care of that for years. Yeah.
Go ahead, Greg.
Larry, I just wanted to congratulate you on the glycol situation. I know I've been asking a lot of questions over the last year or so. I missed a few meetings recently, but I can see that it was approved, and I saw in the minutes of the last meeting that it says that the recycling is going to be starting soon.
Not quite.
Change of status from being eligible for FAA, so Larry worked a lot to make sure that FAA would actually pay for it. And then in the meantime, I've gone through study after study and reports after reports to get to where you're talking about.
Yeah, so the study's done, okay, so now we'll take that study, which we think is the best solution, although kind of expensive. And put it in the CIP and we'll start scoping with the FAA to get that done.
Okay, but still moving forward. And,
Oh, we can't stop.
Yeah.
It's important.
And it's caused some momentum and maybe a little bit of pressure to have our partners think about this a little bit differently too. Heritage actually just signed a purchase order for new glycol trucks, which is gonna reduce the amount of glycol sprayed with new technology and whatnot. So already the reduction in the use of glycol, the reusing of it, the collection of it, like all of these things are now getting in place so that we can put it on a capital plan to fund a multi-million-dollar project.
and that spraying sounds like that's the first R when they talk about reduce,
Yep,
and then
you got it,
reuse and recycle.
that's right.
It's having 3 hours.
That's right.
Just one other follow-up, is there any chance that that movement and that positive process can make it into that level 1 accreditation that you guys have worked on? That would seem as if
That
that's a
would-
big part of
That would fall in
sustainability.
our sustainability plan.
Yeah,
As far as goals, I don't know about the accreditation, that's more.
that's more associated with carbon emissions.
emissions. Yeah.
Versus an overall sustainability plan, so we do have two separate things, we have the carbon accreditation program, which is the level 1. Award that we received, and now we're working on the level 2, which would be the reduce and policy work. And then we have a sustainability goal, which includes wastewater to trash to food waste to water waste, all that type of stuff in a separate area.
So, yeah, so that's all the rest.
That's what I thought, yeah.
Good, thanks.
What's number 17? Is that the ILS? Virtual bar improvement,
Okay, no.
or is it just a lighting system?
No, that's a nav aid, that's the light bar on 3 end. If you go out there and look at it, it's all broken up.
Okay.
So for years, we've been after the FAA, because they own it, we don't own it, the tech ops owns it. So we've been struggling with getting it repaired, because it's a difficult thing to do the way it was built. So we were able to put enough pressure on them to finally come around and help us get it done.
And they're
So that's,
calling it a navigation light?
it is a navigation light, so.
It's the threshold lights, so it's part of the
It's an approach lighting system.
it's part of the approach lighting system.
Oh,
which
okay,
they
and they're calling the
associate with
approach lighting
lights.
system a navigation light, okay, gotcha.
So we have now, that's another project that'll be going on at night. To repair that too, so I did,
And the FAA owns it,
the tech ops.
Technically.
Yeah, so like all of the
the whole
lights.
ILS and everything, they own that
Both
too, right?
ILS, yeah, both instrument landing systems, like if you're going on the highway and you see those orange poles sticking up. Those are not owned by the airport, those are owned by the FAA, maintained, operated by the FAA, they changed the bulbs. We maintain the green land and the space and the trees and all that stuff. And we have those same lights on both sides of the airfield. And then there's some lights and some huts or small buildings out on the airfield that have radio signals that come out of them. Those are also owned by the FAA as well. Not a significant amount, but enough. No different than the radar site. That's not owned by us. That's owned by the FAA as well.
And they'll be providing the better, the newer covers and stuff like that for long term.
So the obstruction removal is to remove stuff around the approach lighting system.
You got it. It's
for the
not-
trees, right?
Yeah, it's definitely paired with the making sure that those aren't obstructed, but it's also more in line with our imaginary surfaces that we need to protect,
Oh,
which is that fake line that comes from the end of the runway to make sure nothing's breaching those imaginary surfaces on a height standard. That's why we need to make sure we always are looking at trees or building codes or city plans to make sure nothing gets built over a certain height.
And Rob, that's a good point. We, as I stated in there, I think I said we were currently in legal review with the FAA on that. We got comments from legal review from the FAA on that today, so we can start looking at easements and what we can actually apply for a grant to take all these down, and then hopefully next year.
and so nothing in the new ramp, the new Veda ramp by the manufacturing facility is gonna impact that easement obstruction piece.
No, anytime there's new vertical building, whether it's at this airport or pretty much in Chittenden County. There's building code that we've worked with, Larry's worked with to add, not building code, but zoning regulations.
Yeah.
But not the building, the ramp. So let's say you put a G4 out there, not the
Yep.
it is never going to, there's
You
no
got it.
airplane on the planet unless we maybe put a
A380,
hot air balloon.
yeah, or
Hot air
higher.
right? 380.
Yeah.
Okay, so the ramp being closer, there's nothing
Without.
higher that we could impact.
Correct.
That's all evaluated.
Yep.
Yeah.
One thing I'll add to the construction report is I can't reiterate enough what Larry was talking about with the runway reconstruction. This is a huge project for us. This is obviously, like Larry said, safety first. But the intricacies of shutting down the runway every night at exactly 11:45 PM. It's a hard closure, which means if an airline is late coming from a destination, it will be canceled. Obviously, we're going to avoid this, we're going to work with the airlines. But if we can't allow the construction workers a 5.5 at least period of time to get in, to remove old asphalt, to re-pour it, to repaint it, to get it ready to reopen in the morning every single night in small strips. We're never gonna be able to complete the project. The only alternative to that, which is what other airports do, is they close the airport. And for a 60-90 period day, they would not have any flights operating. Plattsburgh did that. Manchester and Portland also did reconstruction on some of their runways. They have the luxury of two crosswind runways that they could shut down one at a time and still operate on the other one. We don't have that luxury, so we had to very carefully design it. But I just wanted to reiterate that you may see some cancellations and things like that at night, which of course will impact the morning departures. And on the flip side, if for some reason we are not comfortable opening up the runway after doing our Part 139 federal inspections, we're not going to open it up until we're ready to go, and that might cause delays in the morning as well. I'm very confident, very comfortable with every action. Dave Carmen unfortunately can't be here today. He is leading the charge on the safety element, along with Larry with the construction, to make sure the process, the procedure, the checklist, the communication in our team is ready to roll every single night. They're actually out there, not tonight, last night they were, tomorrow night, Friday night, Sunday night is this official start to do a dress
This
rehearsal.
week is the start
Sunday is the start of that runway project.
at 11:45.
Yep, the airlines have been fantastic. We've been working with them for a year on this. They have adjusted the schedules for us. So when we talk about the numbers, we don't see any reduction in service because of this runway project. They did move like a 12:30 and a 12:15 a.m. arrival time to 11:43. Again, that shutdown is 11:45. It's block time, so there's some wiggle room in there. When there's two particular flights that we're gonna be watching very carefully, but they move things around and kept the seats available to us, which is pretty outstanding.
So I would say that the other safety component that goes with that is that the tower is there until midnight. So if somebody missed the memo, or somebody thought they were in a sneak air, or somebody launches, there's gonna be a person telling them the airport is closed.
Yeah, we have 24/7 people out here. We are not controllers. We do not.
No, the tower doesn't close till midnight. So in theory, if we're closed at 11:45 and somebody,
Yeah,
there's still gonna be a person in the tower saying, no, we're closed.
that's correct. Up till that time frame. Overnight, we can still communicate with pilots, but we don't give control instructions to pilots. That's not what
But
we
the
do.
whole airport or just one five?
The entire airport will be closed from 11:45 until six a.m. Or five,
And on the mic.
and both runways will be closed. We made that determination. We didn't want construction happening on the main runway with crosswind or
Yeah.
2 a.m. arrivals. We're required to put lighted X's, which is exactly that. These are giant X's with light bulbs in them. That go on the numbers, we call them. So there'll be 4 lighted X's. There'll be barricades pretty much at every crossing taxiway onto the runway that also have lights on them. We have notices to air emissions out there. We have all sorts of publications that are associated with it, along with a required construction safety and phasing plan, which goes through the intricacies of exactly what these phasing things are. So very, very critical, obviously, to get this work done. It's been over 13 years for sure, maybe close to 15 years. Yeah, 15 years. Generally, you do this between the 10 and 20 year mark.
When do we reopen in the morning?
5:45. 5:45, and the first departure is 5:40.
5:45.
Yeah.
America.
Yeah.
DC, yeah.
Yep.
Well, it used to be 5:30, they must have moved it.
They moved it. But 100 days. We'll be back with a new run. And we have the luxury too, that our entire runway is not bituminous or asphalt. The thirds on either end are concrete, so those are different materials, and we're not gonna be touching those.
Okay, here's a super weird question, but I have to ask. if something were to happen in the sense of national security, how do we get the F-35s out?
They said they'd figure it out.
Yeah,
They
the
said
airport
they
is
figured it
closed,
out.
the airport is closed, so the runway will not
You
be
can't use it.
used.
Oh, I see. So they're gonna use the taxiway. All right, I get it.
Yeah.
All right. Glass.
Or they won't be here.
Or they won't be here. Okay. I mean, they are here for national security, so it would make sense that we have to have a backup plan if they can't launch, right?
We have no requirement for that, no. Yeah. Our runway is closed, we can't authorize any departures or arrivals other than a runway.
There will be no national security events for the next 100 days. Yeah, I'm sure they've figured out where they can go. Okay.
Right.
So that, obstruction removal, threshold light. Oh, and the last thing was, this is just the continuation of that V-tang arrestor cable drainage. That's been
This-
ongoing, right?
This is the project to do the drainage for that, yeah. But
They'll go with, along with, yeah, of course, they're gonna do it all together. Yeah, okay.
right, and they do have some out of the safety area, so they don't have to do it all at night, but they'll be out there most nights that SDI is with the runway.
All right, commissioners, anything else for Larry?
Well, we're have the lyrics.
Where's this guy?
It's summertime, man. It's like an overdrive.
Yeah.
He's doing a great job.
I'm already working
Sure.
on next year's and the year after's project, these are already gone.
Yeah, these are already in
These
place.
are overdrive.
Not really, but I have to focus on next year and the year after to make sure we're set, so.
And you know, Larry is not alone, right? Like, obviously, a lot of the administrative work does fall on Larry's shoulders, but during construction projects, we hire big engineering firms. They will be on site every single month. Yeah,
Lots of them there.
oh yeah.
Just in the little. Yeah, and I didn't actually realize how many engineers are on site until yesterday's meeting.
All right, let's move on to item 7, which is noise information from Larry.
Really don't have much to update. I think the best update is Nick, when he showed the pictures and reports on that during his report. It's going smoothly. You already heard the request for the motion. So we're continuing to move the program forward, and I'll be willing to answer any questions.
Any questions for Larry? All right, and Jesse, you're on for this item?
Yes, so for noise comments, there have been no noise comments since the commission meeting from April, so it's posted in the packet. But I don't have anything to add beyond the presented data. I'm happy to answer any questions, but again, 0 comments in May so far, so it's all the same data.
Anything for Jesse? All right, we'll move on to the financial update. We'll be taking that.
Marie. As usual, Marie does a great job summarizing the package. She's on a well-deserved vacation in France right now. And her package is right here for you. We're doing really good. The revenues are higher than last year, which is always amazing to hear. We're on track for our expenses, which is good. Cash on hand is looking great. Our receivables with AIP, with all the work that Larry and Marie and everybody's doing to reduce that number is continuously looking great. Yeah, I think she did a great job summarizing it once again.
All right, any questions for Nick?
One thing I will add to that I forgot is PFCs. I know we mentioned before that our PFC, passenger facility charge application, was recently approved by FAA, which allowed us to start drawing down on a restricted PFC bank account. And you can see that PFC bank account in her summarization of just shy of $10 million. So that PFC is restricted. We can't use that until it's authorized by FAA. But we have authorization, so now we're gonna be starting to draw that down, which will start adding to our cash on hand account. There's several million that was requested just recently.
Thank you, Nick. You can keep on rolling with directors.
Oh, great.
Shared.
Lots of pictures today. I think there's a lot of good things happening. Mass timber is, I think, the most exciting one. This picture, who's in it? We have Jeff, Alex, who I don't know if you have met. Oh,
Oh my goodness. So visual age.
11.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
You got a frowny face.
Like that.
No, I think we want to go to. Can you guys see this full screen? Chip, you're saying no, you can't see the presentation? What do you see? Because it looks like on our end that it's showing.
It asks me to double click and then I do it and it says Leahy BTV has started screen sharing. But there's no attachment. Oh, there it is. Now there is.
Okay, perfect. Looks like it just took a second. Is it full screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Go ahead, Nick.
Oh, yeah. So this is a picture of the first delivery of the wood beams that are now actually installed on top of the Project Next site. This is just one of the beams, and I forget how long it is, but 50 feet, 60 feet, something like that. We had a great day when that delivery came and they unpackaged it and got it off the trucks and watched them raise some of the first ones, which is great. We have a lot of notifications going out both on our website as well as our social accounts and internet online accounts because this wasn't federally this wasn't Federal Aviation Administration funding. This was that new funding that we got through the Northern Border Regional Alliance or Commission that was able to allow us to get grant funding for specifically mass beams, which is really, really exciting. So we'll continue to update you and of course the community on everything that's going on. And we're really, really excited to showcase this at our event next Wednesday, which we hope many of you can come.
And these are gonna be like exposed beams,
Yeah.
beautiful wood, like
Yeah,
timber, right?
yep.
If you go to the top of the parking garage now, because they haven't put the ceiling or whatever over it, you can see it,
Oh.
the mass timber up, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's great. It's really nice. Yeah. And then on the next one, we continue our communication with state representatives, not just legislatives, but also secretary level positions. This is our Secretary of State, Sarah Copeland Haynes, who came and visited the airport, Heritage Aviation with us, as well as many of our other projects and our commitment with the Vermont Air National Guard Fire Department. This is Chief Soder from the V-Tank Fire showing Secretary the new equipment that they have, relatively new equipment that they have, which is that massive truck in the background. I think that tire is the height of me.
It's a really good.
It's a big truck. They actually, we have very strict requirements for what type of equipment and how many personnel are stationed here 24/7 at the firehouse. That one vehicle meets the specifications for the amount of commercial operations that happen out of here. It's a single operator vehicle. Obviously, we need more than just a single person here, but single operator. They have a steering wheel in the middle of the console and they control the nozzle and the high-speed spray and all of that. Spraying firefighting foam, which is fluorine free. One of the first in New England to actually receive that PFAS free or fluorine free product. And we wouldn't have gotten that without V-Tank's help because getting it on the private commercial side of things is extremely difficult for airports to do. This is a picture of nothing. Weird, it might be the internet, huh? That's right, it is on the commission package as well. On civic clerk. The next picture is just associated with a nice team exercise that we had a couple weeks ago with Green Up Day. We partnered with Heritage Aviation, which came out and helped support us. And a portion of our staff that was able to join us without interrupting their daily operation came in. We walked a lot of miles, both on the airfield. I walked with a group of folks from our terminal over to the Winooski River and back again, cleaning up garbage. Yeah, it was a really fun day, and we had a little barbecue afterwards to celebrate each other and the teamwork that we have. The next picture, the next picture is exciting too.
Action photo of you cutting some wood for this.
Thank you for noticing that. Yeah. When I did that, the contractors were like, "Don't touch that." We were able to. We had a group of really amazing homeowners that were currently under construction with part of the residential sound program, and they were gracious enough to allow us to come check it out and share the progress in their houses. Some of these pictures are truly getting interior renovations, new walls on the interior, new painting in every single one of the eligible rooms. All those windows in that image right there are brand new windows, including that big, not really a bay window, but the giant window in the front there, which was customized for the house. The upstairs you can see is there's a bedroom up there that also received new windows. Downstairs in the basement, we looked at brand new HVAC systems. These are houses that were built in the 60s timeframe, so there's small spaces that need to be really uniquely developed. And then this is a different house on the left hand where we're peeking out on not yet an installed window. I like this picture too because you can almost see the different layers of both the drywall and the membrane that is installed in the inside, right next to the drywall. And that's what's reducing the interior noise on the wall side. And then of course, a brand new window will go in that there. Actually, it's already completed. Generally, the contractor is in and out, about 6-7 days, and they replace all the windows, all the interior, repaint. The houses look beautiful, clean. Some of the homeowners were there, and I was able to talk with them and interview them. They're really ecstatic. Obviously, nobody likes the intrusion of construction in the house, but they were really happy with the folks that we were talking to, which is fantastic. It was really inspiring too. We walked from this house to a couple of other houses, and the contractor was like, "Oh yeah, that's Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and that's so and so." As we were going down the road, going, "Yep, we finished this one, we finished this one, we finished this one." Now it's coming up in the fall, which is great. A couple of upcoming events for your awareness, in past events. So in the last couple of months, like I said, we've had legislative action, but we've also gone to various city councils. We're hoping to hit the Winooski City Council as well. We haven't reached out just yet, but we'd also go over to Winooski. We presented to South Burlington and Williston, just general updates on construction, future planning, growth, noise programs. And of course, any questions that they have. We hosted a Vermont Tourism. No, we're going to the Vermont Tourism Summit in Sugarbush. No, that's VBR. Yeah.
Jeff and I believe Alex and Jillian participated and held a tour for some folks here in the last month with the Vermont, like in conjunction with the Vermont Tourism Summit.
Yeah. That's great. May 30th, which is 2 days from now. In fact, at 6 a.m. I'm on a flight down to Charleston, South Carolina tomorrow. We're meeting with the CEO of Charleston Airport on Friday. We're gonna get a tour and get to understand his airport a little bit. I wanted a little bit of time with him as well. We're also gonna have a celebration in Charleston. Because it's their first time coming to Vermont, as well as our first time going to Charleston. So we're gonna have a really cool celebration. We'll also take the first flight on Breeze Airways on May 30th, this Friday, from South Carolina, and then we'll land and have a nice celebration here as well with the passengers and hopefully some media as well. June 4th is that private skyline soiree. You all should have invitations. We will be having it on the second floor in the construction site, so you can actually feel and see what it's gonna look like. Right now, we're close to 200 attendees. It's gonna be pretty spectacular and amazing, and I'm super nervous and excited, which is great. It will be something you don't wanna miss, at least with me, with the performance. June 9th through the 11th, just throw that out there.
It's good tease.
The attendance just skyrocketed.
We're taking all cell phones away. 5:30 p.m. Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
what time is it?
5:30 to about 8:30.
If you liked the unveiling of the name, you don't wanna miss this.
No, you don't.
You're still frozen, maybe stop screen. Okay, town meeting, thank you for that comment. We will restart the screen sharing.
On the following week, June 9th through the 11th, Jeff and I are also back on the road. We're going to be going to what's called the Jumpstart Conference, which is hosted by the American Association of Airport Executives. And that Jumpstart is to meet with airlines one-on-one and talk about our air service, talk about our profitability for them, as well as the sustainability for them, to keep these flights moving. Really happy to report that American, United, Delta, all these airlines do want to meet with us. They want to grow with us. And we're not seeing service reductions, not just on the runway project, but of course, you've seen a lot of news in the New York market, specifically at Newark. There's a lot of reductions. We were not on that list of reductions because we are filling our planes. So at this conference, we're going to be meeting with all of our current airlines and about 5 or 6 potentially future airlines that we're going to be working with. June 8th through 10th at the same time, Larry, Marie, and Dave are going to be going. Where the heck are you going? Atlanta? Atlanta, Georgia, for the 97th annual American Association of Airport Executive Conference. This is a huge conference. As you can see, there's duplicating dates in there, so not all of us are going to go. We split it up a little bit. There's vendors to engineers to contractors, and a really great overview of FAA presentations and senior leadership that will go in there. Mid-June, coming right around the corner, is our annual FAA inspection. So you throw on terminal project, runway construction project, big events, travel, and June 16th through the 18th is probably the most important days that we have at this airport, where Dave and his team are going through training and documents and inspections with rulers out on our airport to see every line and every regulated space out on that airfield is inspected and reported on. And that includes fuel too, because we have a very big program in fuel inspection. But again, just like the runway, very confident in Dave and his team's work on.
This is not a year for crash rescue evaluation, right?
Every year.
Every year.
Yeah, every year we do that, but no, every year we go through our certification and or inspection. The difference with us is the DoD and the FAA have a MOU. Well, that's a lot of acronyms in that sentence. The Department of Defense and the Federal Aviation Administration have a memorandum of understanding that essentially says the FAA can't regulate military firefighting services and or inspect. So that inspection is really short. Well, the flip side of that is the military advises FAA on their regulations and their foam usage and requirements. So the military standards of firefighting is far greater than FAA standards.
Yeah.
Both are really high. But that's why that MOU exists is we look at paperwork and it's a very, very simple inspection because DoD goes through far strenuous inspections themselves, and probably far greater than annually. If we were just a civil use airport like Manchester, Portland, they would go through a 2-day inspection just in the firehouse itself. And then the last couple of slides are data for you this month, or updated data for you. So again, we're still looking at over 925,000 scheduled seats coming into the airport this calendar year, which is very high, as you can see, over the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years. It's not as high as 2008, which had just over 1 million. But it's not that far off from that, about 100,000 less. Our load factor, excuse me, is still very high, at about 81, just over 81% compared to load factors back in 2008 at 74%. So we're still looking extremely high. Average seats per flight is increased by a seat since last year. We're now at average of 92 per flight. So that again just means our planes are getting larger. Number of departures or takeoffs is also increasing from the past couple of years, more in line with 2019, which had just shy of 12,000 departures. These are only commercial departures, not total departures, just airline departures. And in 2025, we're going to hit just over 10,000. But again, our seats are much higher than 2019, 858,000 in 19. What is that? 640, 50, 60, almost 70,000 more seats this year. And then that goes right back to our passenger statistics. So when we take actuals and projections, using a value of a load factor of around 80%, so slightly less than our average, we're looking at a projected passenger count of 728,000 outbound departures. Roughly double that, and that's our total passengers in and out of the airport for this year. That's high. 728. We haven't hit over 700,000 since 2019. So this would be a really, really substantial year if we can do that with a runway construction project and all of these other items that we have. So we are growing. People are flying, people are enjoying it, and we're capturing more folks in our market area, which is contributing to these numbers. And that's my exciting news for you.
Why do you have a significantly projected decrease in October for 2025 compared to 2024?
Yeah, that's a great question.
It seems like
I don't think
we
that's
should be on
accurate.
par for the same as last year, right? At least, since we've got bigger planes and technically more.
Yeah,
airliners.
I don't think
Like
that's
21, right?
accurate. So if you look at the scheduled seats for October, the first
The projection.
data slide,
Mhm.
it has 100,000 scheduled seats. So even if you take 80% of that, that's still 80,000 projected passengers. So we'll double check those numbers in there. Yeah, that doesn't look accurate.
Doesn't look right.
Good catch.
Yeah, very good.
Scheduled seats is also just employments, right? Starting from here.
Departing seats. No, that's not employments. Those are empty scheduled seats.
Yeah, but it's only departing from here, not forward.
That's correct. Yep, that's correct.
Why is it that that's the measurement? I know it's sort of what we've always used.
Yeah, so that is like that evaluation point where we look at it on a daily. We'll look at daily versus daily this time last year to see exactly what the percentage is. That's our prime indicator of what.
Was that the national standard,
Yeah.
like for measuring airports?
Yeah.
Departing.
Yeah.
flights?
When
It looks at it as an originator.
Who's in the.
that's right.
Although. It is and it isn't, right? I mean, somebody comes from Washington to Burlington for the weekend. They left from Washington, they leave from here, I guess. on their way
Right,
home,
but then, but it still means they didn't decide to drive to Boston or Connecticut or leave out of
Yeah.
Montreal.
Right.
They chose to leave out of this airport.
Yeah, that's right. And for us, the scheduled seats is, these airlines, of course, have data through the roof that they're analyzing what they're actually scheduling and what type of flight they're scheduling. So not just getting that average per aircraft is important to us, but getting the total for the month is the prime indicator of the health of these departures. Or
Do we
the health
see
of the
equal
year.
numbers of. Departures and arrivals.
Generally, yeah.
And do some
it's
airports
pretty
have more
close.
people leaving than coming?
No.
They're almost always.
Yeah, yeah, you might have lower load factors, so they might have. And that's why I kind of show it all there, right? Because it's not just one factor that's gonna say, ooh, we should keep an eye on that indicator because airlines might make a decision to pull a flight. We're seeing large seats scheduled and a large load factor. And if I showed you for example, I talked about Jumpstart and meeting with these airlines. We have a 40-page presentation to the airlines that is nothing but data, nothing but charts, which talks about passengers daily each way and who's going where to what destination. We don't look at it coming here because they're already analyzing it. The airline is already analyzing it is at somewhere else. They're looking at the revenue source out of Burlington, not just seat capacity, but obviously profitability as well.
Do you take into account profitability at all in any of your analytics? Like, do you have that data where people are paying for?
We do.
See,
We do, yep, and we're generally not that much higher on a domestic flight. So when we
that much
compare
higher than what?
than the region. So when we look at Albany, Manchester, Portland, even although it's not, Portland's a little bit different of a market. We're generally in the same realm. Average, all destinations, all flights. When we look at that same average out of Boston, which we get almost 40% of our market leaking to Boston, we're only $20 higher on ticket price domestically. Now, when you start breaking that apart, like Boston to New York or Philly or to some specific destinations, then the numbers obviously can get larger or the spread can get larger. But yeah, we look at revenue daily each way, passengers daily each way, percentage decreases. It's a fun view of
How do you measure leak? You know. Proprietary,
Yeah, and a lot of this we don't share, right? Because we don't publicly
Right.
share because it is proprietary. It is competitive with other airports. We do collect credit card data, and the airlines also report to the Department of Transportation in some of these raw data points. So in about a 3-hour radius, if you've purchased an airline ticket, whether you fly out of Burlington or not, we know that you purchased a ticket and we know which origin that you're departing from. We know that even 6% of our market area, about a 3-hour radius, drives to New York City to take flights. And that adjusts our marketing strategy and where we can put things. Once you cross the border into Canada, it's a little bit more challenging with different regulations, different credit card regulations, and of course, different DOTs. But we can see it all, and we can pivot where we need to.
And marketability for airlines, if they can keep a Burlington flight within $25 to even $50 of Boston, they know that people won't drive. Once you get above that, they will sacrifice their gas and the parking to get miles and fly to Boston
And
to be a direct.
It depends on the airline. If the same airline is, they might be $50 more out of Boston, but then we're trying to encourage them to go from here to Boston. They're gonna go, why? your passenger's already driving to Boston to pay our price. Why would we add a leg into the route, which increases cost and scheduling and all of that? When we're already capturing that profit right there. So it really is about competition for us, and that's why when we look at the diversity of the airlines, how important that is for Burlington to make sure that, okay, fine, the airline A, you're out of Boston and you're charging more. We're gonna encourage airline B to fly from here to Boston and shift that dynamic. Obviously, we don't fly to Boston, but that's part of the conversation regardless of where we're trying to pull from. I could talk about this all day long. I love it.
The most fun data that
Yeah,
gets gathered is.
Yeah.
The seat margin, and if you look at, most airlines are operating at about $5 per seat. That's what they need. So when it seems so high, the amount that it takes to operate an airline, most are making their money off of that visa sell and the miles. It's not that simple. Small fun tidbits, you know, it's so weird.
What do you mean the mile, like the credit cards, the?
Yeah,
are
so.
given miles?
Yeah, so that's how they're gonna gain, that's gonna gain my loyalty, and then the money that they're gonna make off of that is far exceeds the $5 gonna make on the seat they sold you, even though it looks really expensive. Great stuff.
So to build, actually, I just want to pick on something or build on something that Jeff said. So you had mentioned, Nick, that you have visibility not only to pricing, but you also said profitability. Or that was your question, was profitability.
not profit.
Okay.
Yeah, just revenue, total
That's
revenue.
not,
Yeah, it would take a financial detective or analyst or. You wouldn't even be able to do that, even.
Right, because there's so many
Okay.
costs.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, because I thought I heard profitability.
Yeah, sorry, if I said that, no, revenue.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, commissioners, anything else for Nick before I move on? All right, move on to item 10, commissioner items. This is interesting. Okay, so we'll first take regular commissioner items, if anyone has anything that they would like to bring up.
I want a Gosling sign. For the 12 baby geese that are going back and forth across the road every day. I have turned into a traffic cop. I have to stop everything I'm doing and they all 12 get across the road and then they turn around and they go back across. I don't know why they have to go back and forth. It's killing me. They are adorable. You haven't seen them. So there is a pair of Canada geese that have decided that this is their nesting area and it's right in front of VFA, in front of the, the grassy area.
Oh,
And
over in the
where the lake
over
is,
there.
yeah, and they go back and forth, all 12. We have a
Fortunately,
turtle
we don't
sign,
want them.
but we don't have a geese sign. I think we need a geese sign.
Yeah.
Because Robin is spending a lot of her time making sure all 12 get across the road. They are adorable. And I worry.
Yeah, talk to Jake.
Do I talk to Jake?
Yeah.
Tell Jake. He needs to take over my duties here. I'm also curious if we have, if we partnered at all with the 99s, which have for the first time in history decided to hold their conference here in Burlington. It's super exciting. The 99s is the oldest women's aviation organization in the United States. They've been around, I don't know, since the Wright brothers. And they do an air race every year. We are not on their air race circuit at the moment, but they are having their conference. The college is sponsoring at a bronze level, and it would be great to have some kind of Burlington presence because they're doing a lot of tours. Over 350 women come to this conference.
That's amazing.
And it's gonna be at the waterfront, or whatever they're calling it now, Sheraton Hilton, the one that faces the water.
Yep.
Hotel Champlain.
Yeah.
It's been a few things. And it's gonna be like 3 days, it's in July. I think Lord Caputo is the guest speaker, so we have V-Tang is gonna be speaking, the college is present, like pretty much all the. So it'd be cool if we had some.
Yeah, if you can get us in contact with them, we'd be happy to look at that.
I did give them some ops contact, but I will re-up that. And then they're gonna do a big market / news media thing for that. So
Great.
a lot of players have been involved, which is really cool.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
And yes, program starts Burlington High School, yes, program, which is year-end studies, aviation. This week, Burlington has been an absolutely amazing partner, and so 10 students for Burlington High School, half of which are on free and reduced lunch, will be coming. They come for an ops tour, and then at the end, we'll fly them all. But it's just a super fun partnership that we look forward to every year. And the airport has been really, really great about supporting that.
Any other commissioner items?
I was curious, and about the gentleman who was here earlier, Mr. Nichols. And I was just wondering, Nick, if you had any thoughts on that, if the airport is trying to sort of further his argument.
Are they really canceling the bus?
On Sundays right now, yeah,
Oh,
so
on Sundays, not on Sunday forever, on Sundays.
someday, yeah,
I
someday.
thought he meant Sunday forever.
No, well, that was the original conversation, yeah, and it was a larger conversation of more reduction on the number 11 bus route. So before and since the conversations that came up in the commission, we have met with senior leadership at Green Mountain Transit, as well as a couple of the board members to understand a little bit more what's going on. We're going back and forth to support data like, well, what was presented on who's using the bus and things like that. Of course, GMT has more immediate data that they can obviously support whatever decisions they need to make, but we're advocating more and more and more to continue service on that bus line or find an alternative. South Burlington too has been an amazing partner, which honestly probably swayed some of the decisions of canceling that bus line, because I think there's some connection with their new Main Street. I forgot what they're calling it, but their new Market Street area, which is fantastic. But yeah, we're gonna continue not just with buses, but alternate ways to get to the airport, working with Uber and Lyfts and other alternate ground transportation sources. He's 100% right. Yeah, like one, the bus service is used by employees. Two, we should try to look at reducing or trying to shift greenhouse gas usage in the parking garage. We are looking at additional level 1 chargers in the garage. We're coming across a couple of hurdles with adding electric vehicle charging stations, not just because the federal funding has, I won't even call it dried out, but stopped. But also with some building code issues where charging stations within the structure of the parking garage is no longer allowed. So we have to think of alternate solutions on where we do it, like the rooftop part of the garage. But all of that combined, very similar to what he's talking about, really a comprehensive ground transportation plan, not just for employees, but also for passengers. So specifically with GMT, lots more conversations happening and lots of exchanges to try to support growth. But again, we can only go so far. It's a different entity, a different company or municipality. Yeah.
And since you mentioned the parking garage, there was a car that was parked across from mine when I came in that looked like it had been there forever. And I'm just wondering, does anyone ever check the cars? I know that people can park there for extended periods, but there's all sorts of dust on this. It was on a California plate.
Yeah.
And okay, I'll send it to you.
We do daily walkthroughs and drive-throughs to figure out if people are there. It's tough right now, obviously, unless there's physical things that we can identify. Sometimes we need to be quicker, so we might not identify it. Our new parking system, which you'll all see in hopefully the next 2-ish months, We want to upgrade our parking system, so we're going through a procurement process of doing that. We've had this one for about 7 or 8 years, and a computer that old sometimes doesn't function the way it should. We're doing great with our current system, but we need a better system. My point rather is, with that new system, we can identify license plates as people go into the parking garage and identify how long they've been there, and then search for those specific license plates and then kind of question a little bit. It's gonna be a much needed upgrade. Of course, it will take several months, if not the rest of this year, to go through that process.
I always wondered what percentage of the people were long-term residents during winter. And they said, lost that card,
Yeah.
and you pay, $100, and they're like, okay, that's great, I had 2 months of parking while I was in
Well,
Florida.
and part of it too is people have found a way around that system.
Right, that's what I
And they
mean.
can park here for months and not pay for months, so the new
Right.
system will help.
Right, that's what you're at, because your lost ticket is only like a 5-day
Cause you. look over
penalty.
it.
Yeah, we solved that, so that.
Okay, that was a thing.
That was a thing.
Okay.
That's been a really long time.
Yeah, and
Okay.
that we saw, we solved that. And of course, we do have people that abandon cars in the parking garage for whatever reason and things like that. We analyze it constantly too, from the number of transactions, and we know our average day is about 4 days. We have people, I'm just looking at some of this data right here. We get folks in there for 60 plus days, and they pay the bill, and I don't know why they're there that long, but it all works out. That was part of the study and determining factor 2 on adjusting our parking rates, which will take effect July 1st, where the first hour is going to be free in our parking garage, and then there'll be some thresholds in between. The daily rate goes from $12 to $14 an hour. But we looked at what is that going to impact. Obviously, it's going to increase the cost of the longer term parkers, and we do sometimes corporate deals. In fact, I was just talking with some folks today about individual deals on routine flyers that sometimes are here 1, 2, 3 times a week on average, flying out for work. And we're working on some programs associated with that as well.
And the thing about airport parking garages is you can always fit a tow truck in it, right?
We can, yeah.
Right, because otherwise. You'd have,
Yeah,
there would really be no consequences.
yeah, well, we have a couple of options. We have rollers, so we can move cars, and when you pull the ticket, on the back of the ticket, it says we're not liable for any of that type of stuff. So we have rollers we can put under your wheels and actually physically move the car, put tow trucks in there. Sometimes we claim ownership of the car too, and we've done that in the past where it's a long process through the state, but if there's an abandoned vehicle, we do our outreach and communication, which takes months and months and months to go through. And then we receive title to the vehicle every now and again. It's very rare.
They're all yellow and say ops now.
No, we immediately trade them in and then buy a new.
Or an ops charging station. Nice. All right, that's good.
All right, commissioners, anything else on item 10.1? Right, my apologies on 10.2. This should have been on the agenda last month and didn't quite make it. But this is the letter that we all worked on back in April to our recommendation to reappoint the director of aviation. No content of that letter has changed over the past month, so this is just the formal approval of that letter. I don't know if anyone wants to have any discussion on that letter at this point.
No, thanks for coordinating, well done.
All right, so then hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the letter that we worked on in April. As moved by Jeff, is there a second? Second. Seconded by Connor. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries. We move on to.
Thank you. That Monday is my reappointment.
Yeah, well, good thing we got that.
Yeah.
At the council.
All right, move on to item 11, just follow-up items. So there was one requested follow-up from the last meeting, which is the flagpole update. Dave is not here.
Yeah, and if it's all right, I'll keep that on there, or ask to keep that on there. He has met with, as he said at the last meeting with, and Larry was there too, with, the folks. At South Burlington, I'm blanking on the title of, the Sextons. Yeah, yeah.
For the cemetery, yeah.
For cemetery, yeah, and looked at the flagpole and some other cleanup opportunities over there, as well as angling of the lights and things like that. No issues on our end from an airport, so like Helen reported last month too, I think it's gonna be a South Burlington zoning consideration that needs to be discussed outside of us. Happy to support it.
There was also a follow-up item from last month, and I don't know if you're ready to present the organizational chart of the airport staff. And I can't remember who, I just thought it was Helen. So if it was, I'd be willing, if the rest of the commissioners are willing, I'd be willing to table that until Helen is present, if that was her recommendation.
Yeah, we have it, we have the completed document, so we can email it out as well and attach it to the next meeting.
Okay, great. Right, so that's the follow-up items from the agenda. Are there any other follow-up items that any commissioner would like to add to this list for next month's meeting? All right, very done. We'll move on to item 12, which is adjournment. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
By Greg, is there a second?
Okay.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned.
That is always the loudest eye we get.
It is, it really is.